What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today what I want to do is I want to show you how to fish a chatterbait. I do a lot of different videos on the different chatterbaits, but in today's video I'm going to go in the chest mount and show you exactly how I fish a chatterbait and break down how to get more bites with a chatterbait and some of the certain things that I do to trigger bites with it. So stick around, you guys are not going to want to miss this video. So like I mentioned, a lot of videos break down all the chatterbait gear and all the different ways to fish a chatterbait, but they don't really do a great job at showing you how to fish a chatterbait. So right now we're going to go into the GoPro on the chest mount and I'm going to show you how I go about fishing a chatterbait, and then after that what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the couple different rods that I like to fish. They're going to change how you throw a chatterbait a little bit, but I just want to show you guys how I fish a chatterbait. So we have that Z-Man Evo tied on here. This is a 3/8 ounce model with a Z-Man Razor Shad, and I'm going to show you how I work a chatterbait on any varied cast, so that way you guys can see exactly how I'm working it, so that way when you guys go out and fish a chatterbait you can know how to throw it a little bit better. So we're going to start, we're facing downwind so I can get a bomb cast on the edge of a grass flat. I'm going to let that bait sink down to the bottom a lot of times. I'll usually give it a couple rips, and then if you watch my reel handle you can see how I'm going to go about varying that retrieve. And I'm going to slow it down until I start to tick the bottom, and you'll see right there I tick the bottom, and that's when I flare my reel handle. The key is using your retrieve speed to slow it down to where you're going to hit the bottom, the grass, wood, whatever you happen to be fishing around, and then varying your retrieve from there. And so we'll make another cast so I can show you guys how to do that. Again, I'm going to leave it sink so that way it hits the bottom. And one thing to note is I'm fishing that 3/8 because it's a little bit shallower, and I can also fish it a little bit slower and it doesn't get buried up as easy. So I'm going to use my retrieve to slow it down, and you'll see right there I hit the bottom, and when I hit the bottom I snap that rod and that reel a little bit to get that bait to flare. And that's where you're going to get a lot of your bites, is when you do something like that. And you can even throw in a flare here and there, throw in a twitch with the rod, but the real key is getting those fish to react by hitting something, whether it's grass, wood, the bottom, the rock, etc. And that's going to be how you're going to draw your strikes, because I see way too many people just burning a chatterbait in without hitting anything. And you can catch fish doing that, but the real magic is when you get it to actually deflect. Right there, you see I'll even rip it pretty hard to get it free from that grass, so that way I'm getting that bait to rip free. And right there I had a fish follow that bait in, watching on the Panoptics. So long cast, if you're facing downwind it's easier because you can get a little bit further cast down there. But again, I'm going to start that, snap it, and then I'm going to just start that slow retrieve to where I'm ticking whatever I am fishing around. That is going to be absolutely key. And right here I have a 6:4 gear ratio, and that's just because the water's a little bit colder. We only have 48-50 degree water, and so that forces me to slow down a little bit, versus if I was in 50 or more, 55, 60 degree water, I'd probably have a 7:1 gear ratio reel, because that would allow me to fish that bait faster. But this 6:4 allows me to slow down without actually thinking about it. So I don't have to plan for it. I can actually just slow down a little bit in my mind, because you get a certain cadence that you like to reel with. And if you keep too fast of a gear ratio, you'll accidentally overwork that bait. So for this video, we had a 3/8 ounce jackhammer, not an Evo on, that's my bad. But what I want to talk about is the 3/8 versus the half a little bit, because that's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Most people just say throw a 1/2 ounce and call it a day. Well, if you're fishing around really thick grass or really thick vegetation or wood, that 3/8 ounce is going to be your best friend, because it's not going to get you hung up as often. What it does is it doesn't fall down and tend to turn over as much. And so that's why I like the 3/8 a lot of times, because I can fish it a little bit slower with a gear ratio reel to get it down where I need it to, but it's going to get me hung up less. And so that can benefit a lot of times, versus if you're fishing sparse grass and you're trying to fish a little faster, that 1/2 ounce will do a really great job at triggering a reaction bite, because it will get hung up more and will give you more reaction strikes, because it's going to allow you to flare that reel handle a little bit more and allow you to really snap that bait free. Now, I do have two different combos that I like to throw with a chatterbait, and you got to really pay attention to this part right here, because I have this rod, which is a 7/4 Essence. It's a moderate medium heavy. It's a very slow rod. I like this when that grass hasn't come up yet. When I'm fishing around very, very sparse grass, I'm fishing around wood, that early pre-spawn chatterbait bite, because a lot of times those fish don't react the greatest with it. and a lot of times they're slower to eat it. And so that's why I like this slower rod with a 6:4 to 1 gear ratio reel, because that slows me down. That is key. If you feel like you're missing chatterbait fish, try this combo, because it will save you a lot of bites. You'll catch a lot more of those fish that you normally would miss, or you feel them and you barely hook them. Try this. Slows you down, slows your reaction down. The other rod is a 7.4 Ark Invoker Tour series. It's theoretically the same action, but it's a faster action rod. And so I like that when the grass starts to come up a little bit, and I will fish it with a 7:1 gear ratio reel, because then I can rip it free from that grass more and get that bait to pull free and hook those fish better and burn that bait a little bit better. Those are the two rods that I have. A lot of times I will go back and forth between the two. I've done it even during a tournament day. If I notice all of a sudden I am missing fish, I will go to this slower action, versus if all of a sudden I realize all of them are choking this and I feel like I could go a little bit faster, I'll go to that other rod. I keep both of them in the boat, but they are both great options. The next thing that I want to talk about is the trailers that you're going to throw on your chatterbait, because the trailers that you throw on your chatterbait can change drastically how your chatterbait fishes. I have 3 primary trailers that I will go to. I have 3 trailers that I throw. I have the razor shad, I have a diesel minnow, and then I have a goat. And if you find yourself getting too hung up and you really are struggling, go to a trailer that has more action. That Z-Man goat will ride that trailer up a little bit, ride that chatterbait up a little higher, keep you free in that grass and allow you to fish that chatterbait a little bit easier. The same thing goes with a diesel minnow. Now, one thing I do want to talk about with a diesel minnow is when you're rigging it on your chatterbait, rig it upside down. Rig it with the top of that paddle tail facing down. You will get a ton more action out of it. I've talked about that in a bunch of different videos. Now, for your sparse grass, I like to go with a razor shad. When I'm trying to get the maximum depth out of that bait, that razor shad, the skinny trailer is going to allow you to get super deep with that bait, and it's going to allow you to cover a lot more water. This video is pretty short and simple, guys. Keep varying your retrieves with a chatterbait. Change your gear ratio to slow yourself down or speed yourself up depending on how deep you are, but always be hitting something with that chatterbait, because that's what's going to allow you to catch the most fish possible with a chatterbait. Keep those tips in mind next time you're out there on the water. If you like today's video and you want to see more of this content, hit that subscribe button to follow along. But God bless every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.